So broody hens are all the rage right now. Rightfully so. It is springtime. It is warming up. We still have a few cold days here in Virginia, but now's the time that chickens are going broody. In fact, I just finished writing an article last month. It probably won't come out until next month or the next issue, but I want to talk to you about exactly what's in that article without giving away all the information, but most of the information that you're going to need to efficiently set and keep a broody hen. Now, broodies are not necessarily as easy as you might think. It's not as easy as just leaving them in the nesting box and they're going to hatch some chicks. Not at all. In our experience, there are 3 different ways that you can do it, and I want to break down those ways for you so that you are given proper tools to really hatch with the broody hen, because the worst thing that could happen is thinking you have a broody hen and she ends up getting over it, not wanting to hatch anything. Or the second worst thing is coming outside and finding dead chicks. So there are a lot of different scenarios, a lot of different things that we need to go through when we talk about broodies. So for starters, one of the first things that people tend to make the mistake about is that all chickens are broodies, and they're not. Certain breeds will go broodier than other breeds. Some breeds will never go broody, and then you have breeds that typically aren't supposed to go broody that are going to go broody. So it just depends on the hen, it depends on the lineage, and it depends on what her preference is. But there are breeds that tend to go more broody than others. And because of that, if you are specifically looking to add broodies to your homestead, I would go with those breeds. We specifically added light Brahmas to our homestead, Orpingtons, and in the past we've had Icelandics, Cochins, different breeds like that are definitely brought up to be, it's instilled in them to be broody. Now just because it's a broody breed doesn't mean they're always going to go broody, but they're more common to go broody. So just because a hen is sitting on the nest for a long period of time doesn't mean she's broody. I have had some lazy hens that like to sit on the nest, and because of that you might think that she's broody, but she's not. One of the telltale signs is that if your hen is broody, then she'll stay on the nest. She'll stay on the nest throughout the day, and she will be on the nest still when you come out at night to shut your chickens up. So that is your biggest telltale sign that your hen wants to go broody. Now, just because she's on the nest at night when you come out doesn't mean that she's going to stay on that nest. It's not like me where I have a baby that has to stay in there. So the next thing is that you want to test your broody, and anybody who's ever hatched with a broody will tell you this. You need to give her a couple days, but it's not as simple as just giving her a couple days, because there are broodies that are soft broodies and there are broodies that are hardcore broodies, and I have hatched with both. Now, soft broodies are broodies that really want to hatch eggs, would really be good mamas, but they are easily bullied by the rest of the flock. She would hatch eggs for you, but if you leave her in with the chickens, she's not going to, because she's going to be bullied off of her nest. Wow, that rooster. The hardcore broody is a broody that's not going to get bullied off of her nest. So she's going to sit on that nest. She's not going to let anybody bother her. She's going to be a really hardcore broody mama. It's up to you whether you decide to brood with one or the other. We do both because we like giving moms an equal chance to hatch. But you're really going to have to know your chicken and your setup inside and out to figure out whether your broody is soft or hard. And so testing your broody is going to be different for a lot of different people. There are a lot of people, and I see this often, where they just, oh, I'll test a broody and I will leave some eggs under her for a few days, and if she stays, great. If she doesn't, great. Well, that's not really efficient, and it's not really how you would do it. In fact, we visited Harvey Ussery's farm a few years ago. I wish I was into YouTube back then, because I would have loved to have recorded his farm and made a video out of it. But we really learned in depth how to deal with broodies from Harvey, and Harvey is the broody king. He's the king of Icelandic chickens. He's the king of brooding and being self-sufficient with your chickens, and we learned a whole lot from him while we were there. And he actually has an entire broody pen set up because he believes in letting moms brood the way that they should, which is in a secluded area. And so If you have a broody, the option is yours, but typically you're going to want to separate that broody from your flock. Now, that doesn't mean you have to separate her completely. In fact, I like separating my broody in a station by herself, but still in my coop or still in an area where the rest of the flock can see her, because it's easier to transition her and her chicks back into the flock. So because of this, we have a few different setups that I'm going to show you, and some of it you've seen before, but some of it maybe you haven't. Some of it we don't have in place anymore, but I'm going to explain it to you. So a lot of you have seen our chick brooder. If not, I'm going to link it in the description and up in the cards. But this is a really good broody setup too. You can fill it with straw and make her little nest. Take the heat lamp out because she doesn't need the heat lamp. And she will brood in this rabbit hutch for the whole brood time. And the awesome part is it's here in our chicken coop. And so the chickens can still see her. She can safely hatch the chicks, and the chicks can stay in here instead of getting pecked on once they're born. And then when they're a couple days old, we transition them onto the floor with the rest of the flock. This is one setup that you can do. Another setup is, for example, this nesting box. The chickens love this nesting box. And so most of our broodies happen in this nesting box right here. So I've had hardcore broodies that'll sit there the whole time and they will brood just fine. But typically, it's less common for that to happen. What would end up happening is you're going to have a broody. She's going to jump down off the nest to feed and water, take a dust bath, and somebody's going to automatically jump up in there and lay an egg. And then you've got some bigger issues on hand. You've got eggs that are, you know, the same color. If you don't mark them, you don't know, which eggs are which. And you have to collect eggs every day from that nesting box. So what we did was we ran, whenever we had a broody, wire over the top right here to our nest roosting bar and wire on the bottom, and we made a door that swung out like this. So when we had a broody, if I can back up here, I don't have much room being pregnant. This whole area right here, from here to here, all around was wire, and on top too. And then she was able to jump down in the mornings, which your broody normally will. Your broody only get off once or twice a day. She'll hop down in the morning when you come out to do chores. You swing the door out, she'll go out, she'll do her thing, she'll come back in, hop back on the nest, and you shut the door again. Okay, and then she has feed and water down here. She can do her little duty down here if she needs to, but typically she likes to be with the flock, so she will continue to go out with the flock, but has this area so nobody can get to her. So those are two good options in your coop. Another option, which I've written about extensively in my book, The Homesteader's Natural Chicken Keeping Handbook, you could do a dog crate, you could do a tote. I don't suggest totes because our hens love to be with the flock, and so we brood with the flock. And so because of that, other chickens can hop on the tote, on top of it, or the hen can jump out of it and hurt herself and not get back in it. And so there's some issues there that we don't do. That's just our preference because we brood most of the time with our flock. But you could do a dog crate so that your chickens can still see her, can still brood with her. She doesn't have to worry about introducing her chicks to the flock when you introduce her back in. There's a lot of reasons to brood with your flock, which is why we highly suggest it. But the other option is to completely remove your hen from the flock and put her in a separate dog crate or put her in a separate area on your homestead and let her brood. But we just don't do that here. So your step would be to identify your broody. Okay, is she really broody? Is she a soft broody or a hard broody? And then the next thing is, if you're testing her, don't leave the same eggs under her for 3 to 7 days. Take the eggs from her every day and put new eggs under her so that you're not, to me it's really cruel to leave eggs under a broody if you don't know that she's going to actually brood them, because then you either have to take them inside and incubate them, and if you don't want to incubate them, then there's no point. And then it's really kind of cruel to just throw them out when embryos have already started developing. So pull those eggs every day, put new eggs under her, and then once you know for sure that she's broody, then you can put the eggs that you want to put under her in her new brooding setup. You can either order eggs offline, you can brood your own eggs. There's a lot of different options for you there. So once she's settled in at night, you're going to make your nest wherever your separate brooding setup is. You're gonna pull the eggs, lay the eggs in there, and then carefully place her in there. Let her get situated, and then normally it's best to put a tarp or a blanket over one side so that it's dark and stays dark until morning or well into morning. This will get her situated on the nest and let her know that this is her new nest. The unfortunate part is that when you do move a broody, she could want to try to go back to her old nest, but if you do it properly at night and she's on her eggs at night and for at least 12 hours, then normally she will stay on the new nest perfectly fine. You may have to coerce her back in to that new spot in the morning when you let her out to express herself and get feed and water and do a dust bath, because broodies do like to take their dust bath while they are brooding, and you should allow them to. Then you might have to coerce her back up into her new brooding station, but other than that, she'll take it very quickly. So after that, you have your broody set up, you have your broody going, and she's ready to go. Now you're going to want to mark the eggs with a pencil. Don't ever mark your eggs with a marker or a pen, because that can actually leach into your eggs. Just so you know that she's rotating them and she's doing her job, and that nobody has slipped up in there by some chance, even if the door's closed, and laid a new egg. And so that kind of helps you know. And I also like to write the date on them in case I forget. That way I know when they are due to be hatching. Now the process during that is pretty simple. You're just going to want to freshen her bedding up, make sure she has enough bedding, that she's not laying on wire or hardwood, because that could actually crack the eggs open. And you want to make sure she's not going too far past the hatch date. So something could happen. She could either, not have set on them properly, or you could have had bacteria get into your eggs, or anything could have happened where the chicks just didn't hatch, or some chicks didn't hatch. And so you don't really want to let her go more than 3 to 4 days past her hatch date that you wrote down, because typically broodies will hatch right on schedule. They're the ultimate hatcher. So you want to make sure that if any eggs that haven't hatched, you pull them, because they could have died and then lead to more bacteria. If you don't have any hatch at all, then you need to consider the broody, or your setup might have been wrong. Those are some things to consider. So once your broody hatches, you have your chicks. And what do you do with them then? Well, if you're brooding in the coop like we prefer to do, you don't really have to go through much of a transition period, because your broody has already been with the flock the entire time. The chicks hatch with the flock, but I would allow the chicks to stay in the brooding area for at least 3 days so that the flock can get used to them. Then you can let them out. They can roam around if you want, or you can put them in a separate area and just let them live in there until they're a little bit bigger and able to take care of themselves. It all really depends on your setup, your fencing structure, your coop structure. That's completely up to you and how you want to do that. Now there are some things that broodies need while they are brooding. They need a constant supply of clean water and feed. Don't put it in their nest or right near their nest, because that makes for a huge mess. And it's not very sanitary at all. If you noticed with the nesting box brooder that we set up, we put the feed on the floor, so that requires her to get off the nest and eat like she would in a natural situation. And we also give her some herbs like peppermint and oregano and thyme. These are herbs that will help her digestive tract, because she's not getting up and expelling her feces all the time, all day long, like she would if she were not brooding. And so we like to give her those herbs to help with her digestive tract and calm everything and just make her feel good too. Once she's hatched her chicks, you might notice she has a bare underbelly, that she's skinnier naturally. She'll have lost weight, she'll have lost some mobility. That's why we like for our chickens to brood in with the coop with the rest of the flock, because that still gets her the exercise she needs, the dust bathing she needs, and it makes her get up like she would in a natural situation and eat and drink with the flock. So we really enjoy brooding in our coop for that reason. But again, you'll have to do what's good for you in your own setup. Once the chicks are transitioned, you can let them out, or again, you can put them in a different area. They don't really need anything special. You can put them on chick feed, or they can eat your regular chicken feed, which is perfectly fine. We have raised chicks with broodies on regular chicken feed all the time, because naturally with their mama, they're actually going to eat bugs and seeds and grit in the chicken run with the chickens anyhow. So they're just going to pick up anything that they can, and they don't really need a special type of feed. But if you're brooding in a separate location, then yes, I would give them non-medicated chick feed, and mama will eat non-medicated chick feed as well. Now, just make sure that when you're choosing your broody and going through this whole process that you're not brooding in the wintertime or in the late fall, because temperatures can drop, and that can be hard on your broody, that could be hard on the eggs and cause your eggs not to hatch, and that's just no fun for anybody. So make sure you're only hatching using broody through spring through the beginning of fall, depending on where you are. Even in some places like Vermont and Maine, it's too cold in the fall, so just make sure you're choosing the right season and doing the right process of it all. And that's pretty much it. That's pretty much the process of hatching with the broody. You can get a copy of my book, The Homesteader's Natural Chicken Keeping Handbook, on Amazon or through my website, and it actually walks you through extensively the broody process of everything, you know, how step by step, because there's so many people that think, okay, I can just have a broody, I can brood her in my nesting box and it'll be fine, but 9 times out of 10 that's not typically the situation, and you could just avoid so much heartache and disaster if you were to just move her to another part of the coop, set up a broody station, and kind of help her along in that way. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it gave you some information that you needed. All the links to everything I mentioned are in the description below, and I hope you have a great day. Happy homesteading and happy chicken keeping.